What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode 89. Getting real close to that 100th episode, which I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything special for that one. I've been thinking about it since like the 70s or so, but we'll kind of see when we get there. But I am going to take out the Mackinaw today, because it's been a while since we've taken out the Mackinaw and this one is, this fit is the 95 overheating fit that I did about a month ago or so, I guess. It's like thermal kinetic. If you overheat, it's like 95, which is pretty sweet. Probably not as well rounded or useful as like an Omni tank, but I do like having high damage mitigation and stuff like that. But with that being said, this episode I'm going to talk about, mostly going to talk about progression goals. I know a lot of people might want some insight on, kind of how to keep progress moving. But for the most part, I'm going to look at it in a different lens today. We talk a lot in this series about, or on this channel too, about mining to give yourself Omega, mining for Plex, that kind of thing. And your progression goals when you're doing that are, you have a very small margin of, unless you're mining a crazy ton, the amount of that you make after you pay for your Omega isn't all that much, so it can kind of slow down your progression a little bit. But I figured today, for the discussion of goals and stuff like that, we're going to look at it in terms of, if you're just going to pay for your Omega, you're going to swipe your card, what your income and what all that stuff can be used for to help progress you kind of through your journey. Now, I'm going to be presenting my thoughts on this based on my own experiences, and kind of give you a good idea about, where you should be at, or maybe where you could be looking at in improving or, speeding up progression. It's going to be dependent on where your character is, or where you're at in your kind of EVE career and whatnot. Then we'll talk about some other stuff too that's been going on. It's kind of crazy. Did you guys watch the eclipse and everything yesterday? We were in the totality. We were in the 100% totality area, so that was a pretty interesting. It immediately started thunderstorming and hasn't stopped since after the eclipse, which is funny. It's just been pouring rain where I'm at. But we only got about another day or so of that thunderstorm, and then it should clear up. Otherwise, weather's been kind of just hot and humid. But the thing about goals and progression in EVE is it's a sandbox game, so progression and your goals are pretty much entirely what you make of them. And when you're picking any career, then you kind of have a little bit of a roadmap for progression. And after a certain point, it kind of plateaus off, and you have to kind of figure out your own goals and stuff like that. And that goes across anything, whether it be mining or ratting, PvP, abyssals, anything, right? But we're going to kind of stick it to mining and stuff like that. And when you first start off and you're a new player in EVE, the thing is, you need basically everything. You need knowledge, you need SP, you need ISK, you need all those things to kind of start experiencing the different sides of the game. I would say out of those three, the most important thing when you're very first starting out is going to be knowledge, learning everything you can about the career that you're interested in. And that's exactly what I identified when I started playing. I was doing a lot of different things. I was doing missions, I was doing some PvE, just ratting, and then eventually I found mining. And a couple days I did what I could with mining and stuff like that, but I very quickly realized I needed to know more about fitting. I needed to know more about the places to mine, and just kind of how to better fit everything. So I went and seeked out a corporation for that to learn as much as I could. And once I had the knowledge, then everything else started to come easier, like the ISK. And then I could better put my skill tree, my skill queue to better use to get to certain points of my journey. So when you were starting off, just get as much knowledge as possible. And the community for EVE is great. Just going on to EVE University, the wiki, or getting on Reddit, or getting on YouTube, or getting any of the new bro help chats or whatever. I would say be a little bit careful about just jumping into any corporation, with drama and stuff like that. You can do research on your own as well. Use the guild board, for instance. Go look at that corporation that you're looking at joining and see what their activity is doing. And that's usually a pretty good telltale sign about where they operate and how they operate. And you don't want to get into too much drama early on, because it could just drive you away from the game. But whenever your goal is knowledge, and you're not really stopgapped by really anything, you can just kind of go out and absorb as much as you can through watching videos, reading articles, or whatever. But once you get to the point where you're actually kind of doing what you need to do, doing what you enjoy, then your next big thing, I really wouldn't worry about ISK till the very last, right? You really got to get those skill points up, and you got to know what to train. You want to train, at the beginning you want to train things that are going to give you some sort of ROI with what you're already doing. That's why if you're a miner and you're an adventurer, then yeah, you're going to be, training stuff into barges, you're going to train mining, you're going to train all these things that are going to make your yield better, your tank better, and just your overall day-to-day experience a lot smoother. And then once you actually max out barges, you go to do the same thing for exhumers, and then maybe you go into doing porpoise and orca, and then you're boosting, right? It's just, that's kind of the roadmap there. And then once you kind of get to the point where your ships and your skills and all that stuff is pretty much maxed out, then as a miner, the best thing you can do is start looking at skills that support that. The most obvious thing that you can use mining to support is manufacturing. So now you're looking at processing skills, you're looking at production and science skills, things that will allow you to build more and more stuff off of BPOs or invention or stuff like that. So that would be the next step, right? Go through your mining stuff, get to your actual mining straight where it needs to be, and then you start going into, if you're going into manufacturing, that is, and you're starting to look at stuff that helps your research and your manufacturing and your invention and on all of that. Now, I didn't do that. Whenever I got to the point where I had enough knowledge, and I was, and I got to the point where I was basically, the only thing I had left to do was train like Oracle. My goals did kind of shift a little bit. I was using mining as a way to pay for other activities in the game, and also just pay for skill books, and pay for ships and all that other kind of stuff, because I got really into ratting. I got really into doing jump freighter routes and things like that. So mining is a great way, a way a lot of people actually kind of fuel the fun in other areas of the game. Now, whenever you get to the very, very high end of ratting or anything like that, where stuff is very, very expensive, it's going to be hard to go out and just mine to help SRP yourself, for instance. But a lot of people who wouldn't categorize or label themselves as miners, if they're not in a war, if they're not in a fleet, they will go out and turn lasers on just to make a little bit of extra cash. Or they'll go, just like ratters, people who run really high-end PvP side, they'll go, if they want to chill, and they'll just run some low-level anomalies just to kind of keep the wallet moving, right? Because that's really what you want to do. That's the ultimate goal, is to be able to have some sort of stable income that allows you to kind of continue on with your progression. And a lot of that you don't really hear a lot of. I mean, ships cost ISK and all the fittings and stuff like that, but then really it's even behind the curtains than that, skill books are expensive as well too. So my personal policy is I use product discovery on my alts, and they have to basically do product discovery, and they have to use those funds to buy books. I don't give them actual ISK to buy books. And the reason I do that is because it forces me to actually use those alts to kind of set themselves up for progress. So when I'm doing product discovery on those tunes, they might be out there mining with me, or they might be managing PI or whatever. But I guess the overall point here is if you're getting into this game, you have to be aware that your goals and your progression are going to just be dynamic. They're going to change. Just like for me right now, it's I have numerous maxed mining alts, and some of them are even maxed in manufacturing, capital ship construction. And my main has been sitting in Jita in a Marshall for about 2 years, with training clones. And the goal for that tune, the goal for my main, is essentially just to train as many skills as possible. I want to say it's at 150 or 155 million SP. 9 million of that is unallocated skill points, because every time they refresh the Cerebral Accelerator kit, I basically go and buy all of them. So I just kind of keep those unallocated skill points stacked up in case I need them for whatever reason. But for the most part, my main just constantly uses Cerebral Accelerators until they're all completely run out. And CCP does actually refresh that. Like before, they had them only on the web store, so I bought them all there, all the skill point packs there, which get skill points and different Cerebral Accelerators. Now they're available on the NES with Plex, so it makes it a little bit easier. You only get one per character, but every time they do a refresh on them, they basically give you access to them again. And with all the Cerebral Accelerators, I'm able to stay in peak training form for several months. Like the Genius one is like, I want to say 12 attributes for like 12 days or something, and with Biology 5 that's like 24 days or whatever. So it's like Biology 5 just doubles everything. So my main's goal in progression is literally just skill points and net worth. And then like all my other alts, my mining alts and things like that, like the one that's in for this series, it's already done its max mining skills. It's already done its Orca and leadership skills. And right now its goal, its progression kind of path is just getting better at refining, getting level 5s of processing skills. And that directly just helps with mining and everything. So if you can just turn around and just do like really good processing on that, that just makes a lot of sense. And then all my other alts, ones that were basically like slated for Sino alts, that was their goal and their initiative. But that's the biggest thing too, just recognize what your alts need to do and what their purpose is, and just keep them on a very, very strict strict schedule and everything. And just it's going to change a lot. And I've gone 180. I've gone 180 on a lot of my dudes as well. Like my Sino alts would eventually become Crane and PI alts, and so their goal would immediately change over as well now too. But I just wanted to hopefully answer some questions regarding like people who are already out there mining in exhumers, and they're like, well, what now? What do I do next? PI, get into manufacturing, start training into combat ships, so you can start in scanning. Scanning is a great thing to train into after you kind of like mastered mastered skill points in mining and reprocessing, because then you can throw those scanners on a porpoise or an orca or whatever, and you can scan signatures, get good at that, and then eventually start training into combat ships, and just to have something to break up the monotony. And that's probably the one biggest thing that's kept me from actually getting burnt out from Eve, was not just sticking to one thing, not just sticking to mining, and kind of giving myself as many options as possible. So, and I've probably said it in other videos too, where you gotta give yourself a lot of different things to do so you don't burn out. Because normally if you're just a miner, then yeah, you're gonna just burn out. You just won't play at all, and you'll come back after a couple some time, and you'll get right back into it. Whereas I always like keeping, since one of my major goals, my overarching goal is like getting 1 trillion net worth. So I'm always looking at different things to do. If I'm not mining, I'm going to be out there doing ratting or mission running, or I don't really do abyssals anymore. Not really. They've just kind of, I got really bored of them. But like, just different types of mining too. It's like, even if you're, you might not get burnt out on mining in general, but it's like, let's say you get burnt out on like high sec mining, then I would go out and do like Poshfin, or dip into low sec anoms, or keep the variants going with that as well. But that is kind of the major thing. Some other things I want to talk about to kind of round off this episode. Another little project I've been doing. Obviously you guys know about the nomadic mining series, which I've started, which has been really great, being able to move around and do some mining. My goal there is to ultimately do at least one mining cycle in every high-sec system. So that's kind of something I'm slowly building on and kind of working towards. So far it's been pretty fun. I've got an Orca, and I use a Prospect Endurance and a Mackinaw and a Skiff to bring along with me. And my Orca is basically like my van that tune lives in, and we kind of just, I'm doing like two or three systems per episode for that. So that's probably going to be one of the major things I'll be doing this year. Slowly working on that. Another thing I've been doing a little more passively, just as kind of like a nice little science experiment, is I've been tracking mining gank kills on ZKillboard, and I'll sit there and watch the live feed on it. If I ever see like any mining ship that gets ganked in high sec, what I do is I take the corporation or the alliance and I put them on my my corporation contacts list with negative standings. The idea behind it is that eventually, and the longer I do this, I'll be able to have like a really good picture when I go into a system, I see local, I will have a very good idea of like of what's going on there, because that's another thing. A lot of people are talking about like how to avoid like getting ganked and stuff in high sec, and a lot of it is just knowing who you're in system with, right? And the one reason I decided to start doing this was because it's like PvPers love to show off their kill mails on ZKillboard. So I'm basically using that same information to decide, to identify and decide whether or not I'm going to mine in a system. Because, as high-sec miners, as miners in general, we have the option of just not going out and mining. And the more information you have, the better off you're going to be. Obviously, it's not going to be 100%. And I also realize that if I do this long enough, then I'll probably end up with like 90 to 95% of all corporation and alliances on negative standings in my corporation. But I think that'd be kind of interesting. No matter where I go, it's just all red. But there are situations where like there are high-sec systems out there that have people that live there, people that operate and pass through there that have never even killed a mining ship, and having a standings collection list like that would be very valuable in that, because you'd be able to see right away what the intentions or whatever are for people in those systems. So that's really kind of the goal there, and I've been just slowly kind of working it. I'll sit here and on the computer and just kind of watch the feed. And the reason I only pick like high sec is because I consider like low sec, null, places like that like fair game. And I usually and I don't pick war targets either, or AWOX targets. So basically it has to be high sec, it has to be a mining ship, it has to be not an AWOX, it has to be not a war target. And once you get on the list, you stay on the list forever. The reason it's also not 100% too is you could have a brand new character in an NPC corp, first time ever, and they go and kill a mining ship. I usually don't add NPC corps either, negative standings. It's just player corps. And the reason I'm just doing player corps is because gankers will go where gankers go usually. There are people that operate in like NPC corporations that do kill mining targets, but I'm not necessarily, because if I had all the NPC corporations, then everything will be red really, really fast. So the outcome is not going to be 100%, but it's definitely going to give me a lot more information, which is just kind of like an interesting project for me right now. But if you're actually wanting to build like a contacts list, the big major people you should be adding negative 10s on is Code, Safety Net, Novarus, Ordo, which is spelled NOVUS space ORDO. Those are the major gankers and stuff in high sec. So with that being said, hope this episode was informative and interesting, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and peace out.